Let's talk a little bit about some of these commercial nutrition plans, nutrition programs, weight loss plans, lots of different terms we could use to describe these, but there are several commercially available on the market, and they have been commercially available for a very long time. For example, Weight Watchers. It's been around for a very long time, for decades. People have used Weight Watchers primarily, as the name would suggest, to help people lose weight, but obviously they would say that they have other indirect benefits as well in terms of risk of diabetes, risk of heart disease, risk of cancer, et cetera, which, by the way, actually is true for all of these programs. They all tout the benefit of not only being able to help people control their weight, but also to, again, have indirect effects on some of these other chronic diseases that we are being crippled with today. There are other things like Zone. The Zone diet has been around for quite a while. It very much has in common the same thing with South Beach and Atkins. These three commercial diets particularly promote a lot of protein consumption, a lot of fat consumption. They really want to do away almost entirely with carbohydrate, or at least get very, very low carbohydrate to the point where basically you only eat some vegetables, but that's really about it. Definitely no other type of carbohydrate other than Atkins favors a little bit of things like butter, which obviously comes from milk. So you would have some lactose, or the sugar that we get from milk, as part of that plan. But for the most part, these three are very heavily promoting a high protein, a high fat content of your diet. So they're unfortunately tending to ignore a lot of the other information that we discussed in one of our other objectives, and that is the comparison between a plant-based approach and a more meat-based approach. And then you have things like Nutrisystem. You see the Nutrisystem commercial all over TV today, and one of the things that Nutrisystem does is they specifically say they don't want to deny you of any pleasure, basically, and we know that unfortunately a lot of people derive pleasure from food, where we've become this very taste-driven consumer, where the consumer wants to have really taste before anything else, even their own health. And so Nutrisystem is touting this system that they use. You can eat your pizza, you can eat your cheeseburgers, you can eat your chocolate cake, basically anything. And so what they're attempting to do is to create portion sizes, really emphasize portion control, which obviously could be effective for people. But the idea that there are no consequences associated with eating what we would typically call processed food, in my opinion, is very problematic, because again, this is one of the main things that we're dealing with today, is eating this having too much of a reliance, eating too much processed food, too much sugary, fatty, salty food. So in my opinion, there are problems with all of these commercial approaches. They're not necessarily based on science. They're really more based on marketing, and they're appealing to people in very basic fundamental levels. So for example, going back to Zone or Atkins or South Beach for a moment, it may sound very appealing to you to be able to eat a lot of protein and fat, but the reality is because our system does need a lot of glucose, which is blood sugar, you are going to need some carbohydrates. So it will be very difficult for you to eat a lot of protein and fat all the time, even though again, it may sound very tempting and very rewarding initially. But the point is that eventually you're going to start having some issues when you go into this system and you do it for a very long period of time. I would suggest to you that if you haven't ever tried it, that you would definitely have a problem with compliance to the program, because again, it's going to be very difficult for the average person to go for a very long period of time and not have some fruit, not have some vegetables, not have some nuts and seeds that would contain more carbohydrate than what some of these programs would promote. So again, I don't know that these commercial programs are necessarily the best in terms of your overall health. They certainly may be very beneficial for promoting some short-term weight loss. In fact, any program that goes hypocaloric, meaning that you eat less than what you're burning or expiring every day in the form of calories, you're going to lose weight regardless. It doesn't really matter what kind of food you're eating at that point. There are obviously genetic issues related to that. But if you go hypocaloric, meaning that you go on a very, very low calorie diet of say less than 800 calories per day or somewhere around 800 calories per day, you will lose weight, no question about it, regardless of what you're eating. So I would encourage you to be cautious about any of these commercial programs that you may have already tried or that you may be considering. Just make sure that you do your homework because again, a lot of these programs really are not so much based on science, but more based on marketing. We all know that marketing can be here and science can be down here. And if there's a big gulf in between, then you have a problem. So just be cautious of these commercial programs.